Hello, my name is Hannah Richards, and these are my levels that I built in the Ultimate Chicken Horse level editor. So, I built two party game mode designed maps, and I'm going to be showing the results of both of them after many playtests and many fixes based on the feedback from those playtests. So, let's go ahead and get started with the school. Alrighty, so this is the school level. So let's go ahead and start over here at the start area. So at the start, you have multiple paths that you can choose from to go. You can either go under here, you can go through the middle area, or you can go up and above. So giving the players multiple paths, multiple options to try and get to the goal, which we will get to in a bit. And including getting to that goal is this little portal right here. So this portal is fairly simple to get to, but as players notice that other players start to use it and really easily try to get to the goal, players will tend to build or place things over here, making it very difficult to try and make it through this way, or sometimes even impossible, forcing players to change their paths, making for more interesting gameplay. So let's go ahead and go down this bottom path first. So this bottom path, you got kind of like a narrow sort of cave underneath the main school area. And you've got this little kind of I like to call it like a little death slide area, because it's got these barbed wires attached to it, because if the player touches this, it will kill them. And these just slowly kind of move down in this direction, kind of forcing the player like as if they were going down a slide or something. Then you have these kind of I like to imagine them as kind of like monkey bars, maybe, like kind of like swinging back and forth, or maybe just the swings, depending on whatever you like. You got to use your imagination a lot with this, because you're fairly limited to the types of items that you can use in here. So, like for example, the bus that I made, I had to use various of the indestructible items that they provided. And I use these tire wheel spinning boxes to give the vehicle some wheels. So I gotta use your imagination a lot. But as far as that goes, you can just basically go from here, and you'd go up and over, and you can make it to the goal over here. And remember that portal I was talking about earlier? Here's the second half of the portal. So as you can see, it spawns the player right into the hitbox of the goal. So if the player tends to use the portal, it fairly gets them over here easily. But if the opponents start to see that they're using it, so maybe they'll start to block it off. And now let's go ahead and go through this middle area. We'll go a little bit backwards this time. So you have the goal over here, and you have this narrow pathway that you can try and get through to get to the goal, because that includes from coming from this bottom part as well, just coming through the goal right here. And then you have these spinning tennis ball shooters, fiery tennis ball shooters, and I put these here to try and replicate that the sun kind of has this aura that comes off it, or I guess the gases that come off it, the intense heat. So this would kind of be the heat that is coming off of it, as well as these barbed wire that I just colored the same as the sun. So it's kind of like if you were to touch the sun, you would die. So it's kind of just simulating that in a way too. But these things spin, so they are able to invade this area as well. And something that I've noticed within the playtests is that players will tend to put even more traps on top right here, and sometimes it makes it even impossible to get through here, forcing everyone to either use the portal or to go through this upper area, because it's just there's no way, because the barbed wire either blocks it or the traps that they place here, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. A lot of players ended up liking it, because then it would force all the players to kind of stay in the same area, which makes the game a little bit easier, because the camera will zoom in and out depending on where the players are on the screen, and the closer the players are together, the easier it is to see yourself. So a lot of players tended to try and block off paths just to try and get the camera to focus on itself, which was interesting to see, because I really hadn't seen people do that before working on my levels in this game. So moving on to the main school building. So in here we have some simple rotating pieces, and then with those rotating pieces you have the honey stuck to it, and then I've already put in some obstacles in here, such as the fire hydrant and the flower. And then I left two open so that when the players are able to place their items during the party mode, they can then use this to their advantage, as they don't have to stick something on it or they don't have to find their own honey to stick something on, that there's already honey here, and they could just place whatever item they grabbed and already stick it on here and cause chaos quicker. So that was really fun to see them use that as well. Alright, coming back more towards the start. Now this baseball has to be one of my favorite things that I made while making both of my levels, because I had never used these attachments before, and with these attachments, basically it lets you connect indestructible pieces together, and then once you have those connected, you can then connect them to a rotator like this one, or you could connect them to spinners just like these ones. Doesn't really matter. Anything that's moving, basically, you can attach them to with these attachments. But the thing about this is I had to make sure that every single piece was attached to each other, because there's, as you can see, there's a bunch of small pieces and random pieces kind of in here. So I had to make sure that each piece was touching correctly, because otherwise sometimes this thing would spin and then it wouldn't have pieces of it connecting. As you could, if you watch my previous playtests, in one of the first playtests, like a couple of these pieces just ended up not being attached correctly. So during the playtest, while it was spinning, these two were like stable, and it just kind of messed up the way that the whole object actually worked. But yeah, this whole object just rotates, I believe, counterclockwise, and it just creates another type of obstacle. Like, it's not like the worst obstacle in the way, and then also it helps players get up to this area if they haven't placed things down yet. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and move up to this final path area. Like I said before, with the baseball, you can kind of use the baseball to try and jump up to here. But you have this cloud area. So it's basically the inside of a cloud that you can get into. And you have this flag with a flag and flagpole. And the flag actually moves into the cloud so that players can try and ride the flag back over here, just in case, depending on what type of traps and stuff maybe get placed in this little gap right here, or maybe in the gap above. It's just another way for them to try and get to this area over here. So if we move back over this area, more towards the sun again, we have a couple more clouds, but these clouds, you're not able to go inside. You kind of just got to go around or above them. And you have some more of these fiery tennis ball things as well. At the tops, they work the same as the ones down here. Spin and shoot fiery tennis balls off, replicating the intense heat of the sun. And finally, you can go through the sun. As you can see, there's these two entrance and exits right here. And then you have some flamethrowers that are on the inside, some of them being stable, like these two, and then these two being rotating, which makes it a little bit of a challenge to try and get through here, because most of the flames touch really closely, so there's only a couple of spots in here that are actually safe to stand in. So, some of the way these were made, or not made, but placed in the beginning were kind of difficult, making it nearly impossible. And then there was also a section over here where basically if the player were to jump, or to try and jump, the barbed wire was just way too close to the edges. So it just never ended up working completely for this part. But I went ahead and changed that so that now when you go ahead and walk out this one, you won't run into these barbed wire anymore, and it won't just instantly kill you. So that is basically the overview of this school map. Now I'll go ahead and just do a quick walkthrough of each area while in gameplay, just so you can see what that looks like as well. Alright, first we can come down this area over here. So you got the slide. So just go ahead and wait. Whoop. There we go. Just kind of ride the slide down. And then you can get over onto these, the little swing set, or whatever you want to call them, the jungle gym kind of thing. And then you've got the fire tennis balls shooting, so you got to be careful of those. Just go ahead and run real quick, and then you make it to the goal. Alright, so let's go ahead and go down here again, and I'll show you how the portal works. So you just wait till the portal comes over, jump into it, and there you go. You would win, but it just spawned me back here, because when you win, you get reset in this area. Okay, so like I said, tennis ball, or not tennis ball, baseball. Now I'm up in the cloud, And then I could wait for the flag to come back, but I could just jump over it like this. Like I said, it all depends on what got placed there during the party matches. Now, I have to dodge the tennis ball that's being shot. And then also, you have the flamethrowers working over here. Just be careful not to get roasted. Then you just make it like that. And then finally, I'll go through this middle area over here. Whoops. This gets a lot more difficult as there are more people, and like I said, the camera zooms in and out and stuff, and that more things get placed in here. So it's fairly simple to start with because I wanted my levels to be where the players were able to be as creative as they could be with the party box elements. Alright, so as you can see, I was successfully able to make it to the goal using each of the paths that I created. So let's go ahead and move on to the second map that I made. Alright, the second map that I worked on was a dojo themed map, so let's go ahead and hop in and check that map out. Alrighty, so now here we are in the dojo map. The first thing that I'd like to really point out about this map that makes it unique to the one we just looked at, the school one, is that there are very little places to try and fall or to fall and die. Like in the other one, there were a couple bigger gaps and more ways to basically fall off the map and die versus the actual obstacles that were within the map itself. So I think that this map is unique to that one because this one's more about the obstacles and the traps rather than falling into the abyss. But the only real section that you can really fall down is over here in these two gaps at the bottom of the tower. So let's go ahead and start from this start area. So start area, you kind of have this entrance way, like a traditional like Japanese entrance way. Either you could try and make your way up through this middle area, or you could go through the sides. And something I would like to point out as well is with this level, I decided to mess with the modifiers that you can put on your levels, which I didn't know you could actually do before. I just thought the modifiers were only allowed to be set up by the players, but I guess you can actually have specific modifiers set up within the level itself. So the modifiers that I decided to go with were the players can not hit each other, but they could like run into each other and stuff, so they can actually like block each other. So what a lot of people would do is because of these narrow and kind of weird like exits from the gate, people would like stand in this area and like try to like block each other in and stuff and have traps that are going off in there so they would die from the traps. And then also like trying to compete to try and like get onto this elevator part because normally you would just be able to stand in the same spot, but because they can collide with each other, it would actually be like someone could stand on top of somebody's head and stuff like that, or like try to shove them off of it while trying to jump on at the same time. So that was really interesting to see. And then the other modifier that I went with was the movement speed modifier. So not the player's movement, but the objects and obstacles. So like this elevator kind of moves fairly quicker than it would in a normal setting, as well as anything that basically moves around. So that would be this movement as well, and this, and many more within the map itself. So now that we've got the modifiers out of the way, let's go ahead and continue looking at the rest of the map. So like I said, this is a little elevator that just leads up to this upper area where you have a couple of the training dummies that you would see in a dojo. Most of my inspiration for the dojo actually came from Kung Fu Panda. It's one of my favorite movies, and I just remember seeing like, you know, kind of like those spinning like punching dummies, wooden ones that they have, but these ones don't actually move, but we'll get to the moving ones later. And another thing that is from inspired from the Kung Fu Panda movies was that big kind of ceramic turtle shell bowl that they would fight in and try to fight on the edge of and stuff. So I kind of replicated it as best as I could by trying to attach it to this moving thing, so where it just moves back and forth. And I also attached a cannon in here because like trying to replicate that, like if you slid around in here enough, you would be able to like launch yourself out of it and stuff based on gravity and speed and stuff. And just like the baseball and the other one, I really had to try and figure out the best way to use the connector so that the whole piece would move as one, and that nothing would just be left floating out in the open or anything, or nothing wouldn't be detached. So let's go ahead and move on to this sort of middle area. So here it seems fairly simple, but because of that modifier, this wrecking ball actually moves extremely quickly. So it is kind of difficult to get through here, but it is possible. You just have to be patient, and sometimes depending on some of the items you get with the party box, you're able to manipulate this area to actually make it a bit easier for yourself if this was the way that you wanted to try and go. But remember, the easier that someone else makes it, maybe another player will try and make it more difficult again because they're like, I don't like how easy it is. So that's the fun of the party box mode. So let's move on to this bottom middle area where you have the spinning training dummies that I was talking about. So typically with the spinning training dummies, it's kind of like when you hit one side of it, it will spin the other side to you, but you can't really do that fairly well within this game or within this level editor. So I tried to replicate that as best as I could with just having the whole thing kind of spin, but keep these areas connected so that they wouldn't just be floating off on their own. And I actually learned more about the connectors as well. I didn't know that you can actually stack them on top of each other like so right here. I thought they could only be touching the indestructible parts, but I guess they are allowed to layer over themselves as well. And then we also have these punching gloves down here, which are activated when players either run into the side or jump on top of them. And in the playtests, people were really using these to their advantage and basically gatekeeping, but it wasn't necessarily like stopping the flow of the game or anything. It was just more so like it would give whoever got here first more of an advantage because they could try and get ahead of other people, because they could try and fend them off by threatening with the glove and then quickly make a move and try to like get through as quick as possible, hoping that the other traps would kind of like deal with the players in the end. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at this tower area. So I wanted to have an area with a bunch of verticality in it. With this one, it's kind of like those things where it's like you have to try and get through each level of the tower and then get to the top of the tower and then you would normally win. That's the kind of vibe I was going for with this one. So you have the entrance of the tower where there's this hockey trap. Basically just shoots hockey pucks out, so players have to kind of like jump and try to like not get hit by it. And then when they get to this first level, they have to try and dodge this buzzsaw, which is spinning around in this area. And then when they get to the next level, depending on which way they decide to go, if they go here, they still have to avoid the saw. But if they just go this way, they have to try and avoid bow and arrow shooting down here. So they gotta try and dodge that. And then they can get to here. And also, I guess I can show you, no matter which way you kind of go from these paths, there's always this entrance right here. Try and get in, but people can still block this off, so forcing players to change their paths once again. And finally, there is one more path that you can go through. So with the help of this cannon, it's fairly easy to get up to this bell area so that the players can just go to the top of the bell, fall in, and try to replicate the swinging middle part of the bell that actually makes it like make the noise and stuff. But like I said, fairly limited in here, so you gotta use your imagination for the most of it. But just replicate that and giving a little bit more difficulty depending on what items people put in here and stuff. So it makes it a little bit more difficult than just easily using the cannon, try and get up there and just come on down to the goal as well. Alrighty, so now that I've shown you the entire map, I will once again go ahead and do a quick walkthrough. Alrighty, let's go ahead and try to get through this way first. You can actually hit yourself with this, but it's kind of difficult to do, so I shouldn't have to worry about that as much, but this area is kind of difficult to get through. Okay, let's go ahead and wait for the hockey puck. Whoa, almost got hit there. Make our way up here. Be careful of the saw. Now, it may seem like that I would never hit that saw, but depending on what players place in these blank areas, that's why I try to keep many areas kind of blank as well, so that players can have more power over what their enemies may face than just what the map provides. So let's go ahead and dodge this arrow really quickly, and then we're at the goal. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and try to get up here next. Alright, so here's the flower part that I was talking about. So like I said, it is fairly difficult. got a little too close to the edge there. Like I was saying though, it's fairly difficult to try and get through that area, but with a little bit of patience and a little bit of practice, it is doable. So, may not be able to show you in this video just because it is fairly difficult, like I said, but we'll try a couple more times. Rushed it a little bit too much there. Alright, let's go ahead and try like a couple more times. Wait for the elevator. Alright, so it is possible. I'm just not really good at it. I swear I've done it before. You could see it in one of my older playtests, or in my older builds or walkthroughs. You could see me actually successfully do that, but right now I just can't seem to do it. So up here, you have the little training dummies, and you got the little moving turtle shell, and then what I saw during the playtest is that people like to put like coins and stuff up here. So it's kind of funny because then it's kind of like a race to up here, because like in one of the other playtests, we'd have people that were basically like fighting up here and like trying to push each other into like spikes and stuff up here. So also it would work the same way if like if people were trying to race to the coin, if someone would like bounce off of someone else and like push them out of the way so that they can get to the coin first. So that was really interesting, because even though this area seems fairly simple or kind of bland, depending on the party box items and the players, can become very complex very quickly. So let's go ahead and hop into this cannon. And I didn't make it up there this time, but we can go ahead and go through this way so I can show you this path as well. So let's wait for the arrow. Whoop. And here we are. Alright, so let's try to successfully use the cannon this time to try and get up to the bell area. So let's go ahead through here. So I'm going to wait until it goes back closer to the other direction, and that should get me close enough to try and get to the bell as well. There we go. Just landing on top. Just as easy as that. Ride this thing down. Alrighty, so those are my levels that I made. I hope you enjoyed my levels, and I thank you for watching.